This is an absolutely massive mahi-mahi. Or is it dorado? Or is it a dolphin fish? Whatever you call it, it's absolutely delicious and highly sought after. But there's a myth about this fish I have to address. First things first, we're gonna get this fish weighed up. This dolphin is so big, our tabletop scale is not strong enough, so we're gonna have to bust out the big guns. Out here, Southeast Florida, this is humongous for a locally caught mahi. Almost 40 pounds. That is an absolute unit of a dolphin. Let's get them all cut up for you and tackle the #1 myth about this fish. It's also probably one of my top 3 biggest pet peeves working in a seafood market, period. This right here is a bull dolphin fish, or mahi-mahi. A bull is a male. You can tell the males because they've got these big square heads. The bulls have a large chunk of meat right here in the forehead, and that chunk of meat is absolutely delicious. The #1 myth about this fish is that it's commercially available year-round here in South Florida. One of the 2 reasons why the myth of locally caught mahi-mahi being commercially available year-round in South Florida is that it is on almost every restaurant menu in South Florida. Most of that mahi-mahi is not locally caught. This fish is really only commercially targeted here in South Florida a few weeks out of the year. I always like gutting my fish before cutting them because I don't want any of that stomach going on my beautiful mahi-mahi meat. We're gonna pick up that pectoral fin, and right here you've got a collarbone. Gives you a nice outline. You're gonna go right underneath and slide down. Then you're gonna flip your knife around, and you wanna make sure you get all of that forehead meat on these giant bulls. So it looks like you're cutting into bone, but you're not. That is all meat right there. Along the dorsal fin of these mahi, you can feel a hard cartilage. You wanna go just slightly on top of that and drag all the way down. Now you have a nice opening. You can rest your knife right on top of the skeleton and pull towards the head. Let that skeleton guide your knife as you go. Twist your knife towards the tail, let the skeleton guide your knife, and just like that, you're to the center of the entire fish. Now these bull mahi have a really big spine, and to make sure you don't lose the meat on the other side of it, you have to go all the way to the top of it first. So you're gonna use just the tip of your knife to work your way all the way to the top of that spine. When you get back over by the head, you wanna make sure that you release all of that meat behind the head. It's a really awesome chunk right there. We're gonna stick the tip of our knife at the base of the ribs. Angle your blade slightly up. Make sure your knife is not levitating like this, but resting on the spine. And just like that, you separated the connection the pin bones make to the ribs. Now you can rest your knife on top of the rib bones and slide down. And because we got all the way to the top of the spine, we can now dip our knife right on the other side at a hard angle. Make sure that we do not miss out on any of that absolutely gorgeous mahi-mahi meat. Now we're gonna continue down those ribs. Let those rib bones guide your knife. Here's the rib bones right here. It's easy to cut through those, so you don't want your knife angled into them too hard or you'll cut straight through them. You want a gentle angle, that way you can scrape the top of them without cutting through them. Once you get to the bottom of the ribs, where you can see the base of the bone right there, you can now just cut straight through because those ribs aren't there. Now once you're at this point, you are pretty much done. All you gotta do is stick the tip of your knife right there, and you just have a little bit of skin to cut through. Just like that, you've got your beautiful mahi-mahi fillet. And to anyone out there that's fishing for these beautiful fish, when you catch them, if you don't want this blood to show up and put stains on your meat, which is gonna compromise the taste of the fish a little bit, as soon as you catch these fish, puncture underneath these gills, come down towards the throat, and it'll start pumping blood out like crazy. Then when you fillet it, all this blood that is here will have already bled out of the fish, and it won't stain your meat like this. Just like the first side, you wanna find where the head begins, the actual bone, not the meat. And you wanna cut hard into it at an angle, not losing any of it. Outline that first rib bone right there all the way down. Then we're gonna rotate our entire fish. Just like the other side, we're gonna go right on top of this hard cartilage that is at the base of the dorsal fin, right on top of it, and slide down. Then we're gonna put our knife in the other direction and slide up. Now that we've got that opening, we can gently rest our knife on that skeleton and let the skeleton guide our knife. On these dolphin, look at this. That spine is so tall, it is like a seesaw. So when you're resting your knife on that skeleton, there's no support from the table. So you don't want to apply too much pressure at a downward angled knife, otherwise you'll cut right through the skeleton. Have it just a very subtle angle down, and then let that spine guide your knife. Then after you get to the top, we'll come right here, give a nice little cut, and separate out that nice chunk of head meat right there. Just like the other side, we're gonna use just the tip of the knife to go to the top of that spine. That way we can angle on the second side of that spine real nice, not losing out on any of that mahi-mahi meat. Just like the other side, once you're to the bottom of those rib bones, cut down hard, cutting it right off all those ribs. None of those rib bones are in that fillet. Now, all that's connected is a little bit of the skin on the other side. Stick your knife out, just give it a good little flick like that, and boom, there's the second side of your gorgeous bull mahi. And if you guys know me, we are not wasting the rest of the fish. We're also gonna be pulling off the collars and scraping those bones. It's only worth commercially targeting this fish if there's enough of them to cover expenses and make money at the end of the day, and they're only that plentiful a few weeks out of the year. Now that brings me to reason number 2 why people think this fish is available locally, commercially, year-round, and that's because on fishing charters, you can catch mahi-mahi throughout the year, but it's a fish here and a fish there outside of those times where they're very plentiful. That charter captain spent a couple $100s on fuel, a couple $100s on bait and tackle. If they had a deckhand, they had to spend a couple $100s on that deckhand. 2 mahi, or even 3 or 4, doesn't come close to paying all of those expenses and have enough left over to make a profit for a commercial fisherman. A great example of that is this fish right here is not for sale. The reason why is this fish was recreationally caught, so I cannot sell it. This fish was caught by my friend Captain Mike of Ocean Grown Charters, and he's just letting me cut this fish for you guys, so that way you can see the biggest mahi-mahi of the year. Now we're gonna get it skinned and deboned and portioned, but first I'm gonna clean off those boards, so that way once the skin comes off this fish, the meat is not touching any of this less than clean surface. All right, first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna shave this belly off. Wanna come nice and tight with it, just like that. Locals swear that this is phenomenal bait strip right there. This fish is absolutely phenomenal grilled, and we like grilling it with the skin on because it helps hold in what little moisture mahi-mahi has. Mahi is an incredibly lean fish, and it does not have much moisture to lose. So leaving the skin on when you're grilling helps hold that in. What we're doing right now is we're cutting the bloodline out of our loins. We're high loin, low loining this beautiful fish, and while we're high loin, low loining it, we're removing the bloodline as we go. When you skin, you want to get a good grip on the tail, wedge your knife underneath there. Once your knife is on the bottom, flatten it out a little bit, having just a gentle angle downward so that way you don't cut through the skin, but you don't lose any meat as well. That way you get it all off in one shot, just like that. We'll set it down on the part of the board that hasn't been touched by the skin. And you can see these white fibers right here. They look almost like worms. Those aren't worms. That right there is sinew. That is just a chewy fiber, which like if you're deep frying the fish, it's not gonna matter, but if you're doing a more gentle cook on it, that is gonna add a little bit of chewiness to the texture. And we're gonna take this high loin right here. You've got this cap on the top right here. It's like almost like a sheet of sinew. You can see it moves. You can almost take your finger underneath and take this whole thing off. And you can see the meat underneath it looks awesome. So we're gonna clean it up a little bit, just cut all that off. If I was grilling this fish, I'd leave the skin on, but if I was sauteing or baking, I would take it off. And all of that sinew is removed. Big bull mahi like this is when the customers actually get their squares. So we're going to cut this head meat off. That is an absolute delicious part of the fish. And funny thing is that customers don't want it because it's less attractive looking, but it is a really great part of the fish. And then now we can go all the way down the entire fish, making perfect 8-ounce portions. All right, let's see how these cuts came out. 0.50, 0.50, 0.49, and 0.53. 4 cuts that came out to 2 pounds. All right, now we're gonna remove the collars, puncture through the membrane, slide underneath the throat right there. You've got this bone that's resting on top of the collarbone. We're gonna just slide right underneath it, just like that. And then you can see the top of this bone right here. You're just gonna cut underneath that. You got the first rib bone right here. And this whole thing will just pop right out, just like that. We're gonna trim it up a little bit and get a good handle on that membrane and slide underneath it. You can see how great the meat looks right under there. Now all you gotta do is make a saltwater and ice bath, rinse off that excess blood, and you are good to go. That is a perfect mahi portion right there. There's a ton of meat inside that collar. You've got the pec fin meat right there. It's a little bit more stringy. And then you've got this belly meat right here, which, you know, on mahi, belly isn't fatty. It's still a leaner cut, but it's a different texture and it's absolutely delicious. When cutting out the cheeks, you can feel where it's hard and soft. You're gonna puncture the outline and your knife can slide underneath the lip right there. Most mahi are not big enough to cut cheeks out, but this one is an absolute unit, so we're not gonna miss out on those cheeks. And it'll peel right off. It actually looks really good. So remember, even though you're in South Florida, it does not mean all the mahi you see on the menus is locally caught, though it could be depending on the time of year. Ocean grown charter, link is in the bio. Have a killer day.